A speedrun race for this week. This week we are only doing one race. We've got not too many people free, and a lot of those who are free aren't free for super long. But we will enjoy the one race. Pimsky started a bit early, but you only missed like a tiny bit of -10, so it's fine. So fairly standard beginning stash through materials and all. Malthusis has reached -9 at 54 turns. Pimsky's just said, "Oh, I forgot we do that," in reference to posting the splits. But that's okay. Ooh, now we know that storage is on -9. Pimsky is deliberately taking storage, I believe, in order to get to recycling, and he has a very good chance of making it there because he has high core. We see Velguris is doing a fair bit of hacking, as we saw him do last week. Unfortunately, we don't have full integrity displays for everyone's parts. OBS is being a pain. I don't know why it's doing this. When I had it, I initially set this layout up using OBS on like the exact same type of stream and layout, and it worked perfectly, and I don't know why it doesn't work perfectly right now. Also, I actually know how the underlying engine for graphical display behind Cogmind works because I've used other programs that use it, where you can actually specify what's getting displayed, and so I know how to do the pixel perfect math for exactly where everything should be, and yet OBS is not following this. Pimsky says he's reached -8 at 123 turns. And we see specifically he didn't take recycling, he just went out. He is also not flying yet, but has hackware, while Velguris has no hackware but is flying. We also can see some different choices in inventory parts. Valguris has both of them have like their initial spare engine because they had no reason to put it on. But Valguris has a battery and a wheel, which was also from the start, while Pimsky has a visual processing unit to help avoid enemies and a second engine. Pimsky has reached -7, 209 turns. Wait, 200, Malthusis has reached -7, 204 turns. Very close. Pimsky is also down to 1 tread, protecting all his stuff. And although he's now picked up 2 armored wheels to help that, you can see that even his little processors, the signal interpreter and the hacking suite, took some damage because he didn't have that much protection for them. The Valguris has also reached -8 and was specifically pointing out his signal interpreter. The exit identification feature is useful. Pimsky just encountered the amusing bit of a hunter shooting a hauler for him. They do have a lot of nice loot in there. Not always nice for your particular build, but still. Moore has reached -9 at 46 turns. Pimsky is passing up the caves exit because caves means you have to go through some more maps, and dangerous maps at that, especially with no sensors. Pimsky is now down to 1 piece of propulsion armor again. And now no propulsion armor. He does have nice hackware if he can keep it. Hello, rocket launcher. Hello, Xylan. How are you? You can also see that even though Valguris does like to use hacking in speedruns, and we saw him do it last week, for now he's stuck to only 3 utility slots in -8, and only one of them is hackware. He has a structural scanner to reveal things like hidden doors, which is useful. They do provide potential different paths, and the advanced visual processing unit. Malthusis has reached -6, 389 turns. Ooh, Pimsky has found some flight units. Also up to 7% system corruption from those programmers. And now you can wear an engine. Moore has reached -7, 185 turns. So that exit that Pimsky just passed by is a main exit. We know that both because it didn't auto ID on site and because enemies came out of it, and enemies cannot come out of caves exits. So Pimsky's reached -6, 391 turns. For those of you who don't know, if you've identified one exit that leads to a particular map, and then you see another one that leads to the same map, it's immediately identified on site for you. You don't have to go up to it with a signal interpreter. Also, enemies can only spawn into a level from areas that are controlled by the complex, and the caves are not. Xylan says, I don't mind no gun sounds, etc., but not hearing the found exit sound feels very weird. The exit sound is just such a relief every time. Yeah, it would be nice to be able to have the game sounds included, though if with 2 players it might be a little bit confusing. But the thing with that is that right now I have the stream audio off for each stream in case the streamers start talking or they want to comment on their own gameplay themselves for people who are watching that stream, because if I let them be on, either they'd not know when each other was talking, and so they'd talk over each other, and I wouldn't be able to coordinate that with them in any way, or information would leak between them, and that would make the race rather unfair. Special sounds on command is something I could look into. Right now I have enough technical issues with OBS not behaving exactly how I want it to behave, for like lining things up to have the integrity indicators on people's builds and stuff. When like I know pixel perfect where exactly things should be, and I told OBS to do that accordingly. But it's definitely something to consider once that's sorted out. I've also had suggestions to have some appropriate music where the copyright license allows this kind of use, which is also something likewise do it once the technical issues are sorted enough to do it. Malthusis has reached -5, 535 turns. Mora's reached -6, 447 turns. But yes, I do agree the exit sound is such a relief every time. That sound is used for only one thing in the game. Is ZXC in the running? ZXC is powered down right now. He lives in Australia. Look, I'm not like super attached to this particular time, so we could definitely do it at other times so that people in different time zones can participate. But yeah, that's why he's not in this one, and he hasn't been in the ones that are around this time of day. Silence says, this is a really great time slot for me. It's 8 p.m. Oh, nice. Nice evening stream to watch. Himsky's reached -5, 526 turns. But yeah, definitely, I'm not attached to the super specific time, and if uh, people want to have one of these races at a time when I myself am unavailable, I don't mind showing like how to do this layout in OBS and set it up. Uh, so definitely we can have them at different times for different people to participate and watch. Pinsky is down to one thruster and has 4 engines in his inventory and nothing else. Malthusas has reached -4, 636 turns. And Pimsky is back to core hovering, but he's found an exit, which is nice. Taking the utility shielding. Utility shielding is good for protecting his hackware. Moore has reached -5, 645 turns. Pimsky's reached -4, 595 turns. Silence says exit, beep beep. Yeah, definitely if it could reliably get just the game sounds, it would be good as an experiment at the very least to see if it's really confusing. And if it's really confusing from feedback, we can go back to this sort of setup. But it's definitely the sounds are quite rich and informative in Cogmind, and it would be worth having them if we can sort out how to do that without leaking information or making commentary difficult to impossible. Malthusas has reached -3, 678 turns. Moore has reached -4, 707 turns. There you go. Pimsky has a lot of propulsion armor now. That large storage stockpile is often so nice for either combat builds or the heavier flight builds that are generally ready to take large storage at around this point. Pimsky's identified this as a research exit. Excellent for him. And has reached -3 at 670 turns. And now needs to turn his treads off. Yes, there we go. We'd have lost a lot of turns if we'd had those treads stay on. And now he is back to flying, and his one thruster is protected by attentive treads. Elgarus still has his VTOL modules, which are now not only protected by propulsion armor, but also by the propulsion shielding in his utilities. So if I recall correctly, we know that that's caves. Yeah. Pimsky passed that one by. Moore has reached -3, 786 turns. Rocket Launcher says, I thought I could do something with OBS to make DuoStream look better, so I've set up some testing machines, installed OBS and RTMP server, and then got sick. I did figure out what to do though, seen setup / code of some professional streamers. It would definitely be interesting to see. Feel free to pass that stuff on. I'm not sure whether all these things will necessarily be things I can do, but they're definitely worth looking at the very least. There's no point dismissing that before at least seeing what's getting done, right? But yeah, feel free to pass that on. Might also be of interest to other people in the Discord, because we do have a fair number of Cogmind streamers, and they may be interested in some of that, even if they're not doing the simulcasts and don't want to do that in future for different time zones, to incorporate into their own streams for other reasons. Pinsky now has some powered armor too. Advanced powered armor even, which is helping protect the one thruster he is down to. He's also overweight because he's down to one thruster, so he has to take something off. Zylan says, oof, big group of enemies on the tail though. Yeah. In fact, both of our streamers have enemies on their tail. There we go. Valgyrus has found a cave's exit. Yeah, so this is the first cave map he just left, and the exit to turn back now that he's in the second one is fairly close by. Silent says, oh no, lost the last engine. Yep, Valgyrus did lose the last engine. He'll be okay for a little while, especially since your energy refills to full every time you go to a new map. Timsky's reached -2, 775 turns. Valgyrus does also have the battery in inventory, which he can drop to refill energy from. So he can go for a little while. Also, engines are heavy, and so there's a good chance he can turn one thruster off and only run the other, and generally you can run one thruster on core power. Especially if you turn off like scanners or sensors or other things that will drain energy every turn. Generally one thruster is okay. So we'll see how he handles it. He was definitely very willing to strategically use an energy deficit last week. In fact, what he may be doing right now is deliberately letting his energy run low, trying to not slow down, because he can run constantly at low energy if he has to turn one thruster off, as I described. This says -2 at 916 turns, bad -3, ugh. Well, Pipsky just took a lot of damage to his propulsion armor with that trap array. Ivsky's trying to put Trojans on a security level 3 terminal. I assume to get better chances at access main later because it's not on there. And he doesn't want to indirect hack for access main on that high level terminal. Ooh, Pimsky has found some thruster arrays, which he is taking. Like, he's spending a few turns to get them, but not that many, especially because he's already flying. And yeah, we see Velgers's willingness to run his energy low has paid off because he's found an engine he can support. And so he hasn't lost any turns to going slow. This has reached access, 963 turns. Lylan says, "Aw, instantly rip thruster array." Yep, indeed. Got destroyed pretty much immediately. So now Pimsky is down to only one array and the one thruster he had earlier. Ooh, a Q thruster. Let's see if he takes it. Yeah, he takes it. He's also taken the quantum reactor for backup power. And you see, he's not storing a backup thruster. He's putting them all on now for speed, even though he is losing a tiny bit of energy per turn at this point. You see it says minus 0.0, which means it's like he's losing less than 0.1 per move. Now he's losing more than that because he's got a field propulsion array as well. The arrays actually, in general, really sip power compared to two individual thrusters of the same type, or even of similar types. Zylan says, "I bet the Q stands for quick." I think it stands for quantum because there's a whole lot of quantum parts across various different types, where for a lot of sort of item description types, you only see them in a certain sort of part. Like you have the Gauss rifle and the Gauss cannon and so forth, but that's just a weapon descriptor. There's also some descriptors that cross part types, and quantum is one of them. You have the quantum rifle and the quantum reactor and so forth. And so I think it's that, but I'm not sure. Quantums are kind of quick. This is true if you're looking at quanta of time. But in general, in Cogmind, quantum is a descriptor applied to fairly high-level parts, so it makes sense. Well, Pimsky has successfully found the exits. He just missed seeing one. And now he is looting his enemies around terrain to take less damage. Lost an array, ouch. You can see how he even ducked into the little piece of broken wall in order to take less damage by denying the enemy's line of fire for that move. Silence has nice hack. Yeah, nice hack indeed. And now Pimsky is in excess. Pimsky says, -1, 949 turns, bad -2, with his tongue stuck out. In reply to Malthus's comment. Rocket Launcher says, did Pimsky and Valguris start at the same time? No, Pimsky started earlier because he didn't realize to wait until I had both players' individual streams wired up for this, because the thing is, in order to do this, I have to have 6 sources for each player. And with OBS being what it is, right now I have to set each one of them up individually before each stream. Or at least to tell it what window to draw from. The rest I have done beforehand because there's no point in doing the math over and over and over again. So while I was doing that, Pimsky started. But yes, Pimsky's actions per minute. Rocket Launcher is saying Pimsky's APM is so high. This is true. Pimsky is a much faster player real time than Valguris is. We've actually talked a bit on the Discord about having some extra score sheet measures of pace of play so that people have a better point of comparison for that. Moore says W0, so reach surface 1,281 turns. Malthusis reached the surface in 1,125 turns, so that's the time to beat. I will put that in now. There we go. Silence says, is killing the coupler worth it? And Moore says, yes. Hi, Moore. Yeah, so since you're watching speedruns through Access, I'm going to assume you're okay with spoilers for the surface exit. So what those couplers do, they do attract more patrols, but they also open all the terminal lock doors around the access exits, which are very hard to break through directly via damage. Hey, Moore, nice time. Yeah, there are certain silencing. Oh, sorry, right, I had a cannon from T, not a Nova cannon, misremembered. Yeah, there are some weapons that can break through that terminal door via direct damage, but they are not super common. Pimsky picked up a bunch of Q thrusters, nice. There's also the guarded sort of front door with 2 behemoths, and that one basically any late game thermal weapon will break through just fine because it's not thermal resistant, and I believe its like base armor is only like 45 or something. And so that one is basically like the side of the exit for combat players, because if you have a decent combat build, you're used to tanking hits anyway, and you're set up for that, and so you can tank the few hits from the behemoth while you open the door. Hey, Mouth. Lotus is saying that Val will win again. He has 4 thrusters this early. I barely got any till research. I got a few in caves, but they were all busted. Pimsky has a bunch of thrusters, but he's only running one right now because he has no power. And so he's running purely on core power. He's gotten a reactor, so now he's running them all. Xylan says, damn, 5Q thrusters don't last long, 2 gone already. Yeah, because he doesn't have all that much protecting them. Like, he has 2 sets of heavy treads, which is nice. But ideally, for something like this, you'd have, like, improved propulsion shielding, which he doesn't have. And he's got a lot of enemies that can fire fairly fast on him, so he's taking a lot of hits. And it's fairly easy for some of those hits to wind up hitting and destroying the Q thrusters. He's got this huge tail of enemies. Did Pimsky route through recycling also? No, I believe he took storage, but then he went to -8 instead of through recycling. Where says, was wondering because of that signal interpreter. No, I believe he found that like just regular in materials. Yeah, Valguris actually had the same one for a while. I think, or at least he passed by it. Valguris did go in caves. Yeah, Valguris is a slower real-time player, but he is doing that, I believe, to think more, and is setting a faster turn time pace because of it. Honestly, I'm quite sympathetic to slow real-time play because that's how I play too. And Malthusa says, yeah, and right around this point I was starting to get quite the hacker setup. It made my late game faster, except for -3. Yeah, I can understand that. But it looks like he lost his thrusters. Yeah, Pimsky is down to core hover again. He's also lost almost 3/4 of the core you get for access. Just going around. Moore says, -3, I bit the bullet and routed through armory. That sounds painful. The Xylan says, almost dead, I guess. Yeah, he's on a core alert, and he just missed the surface exit over there. The place where he passed by it is probably a side route because the exit prefab is quite large. That's the command exit. You can see that by the clustering of terminals, and also the 3 terminals really close together like that always happens in command and is fairly rare anywhere else in access. And the really small blue doors are always command. There's no other place that does that in access. Moore says, yeah, he just skated past the exit. Ouch. Yeah, in fact, he went so close that I'm pretty sure the place he was right by it was a side entry point because the doors that would be for the front and back would take up too much room. And yeah, now Pimsky is dead. But yeah, if you know the prefabs, you can kind of tell. And in fact, actually, a side approach to the surface exit is preferable in some cases because especially if you're doing stealth but not hacking, you can take a good melee weapon and slice through the side and get in. Moore says that improved diametric drive was a lifesaver. Yeah, it really was. We saw it do a lot of work for Pimsky too. Malthesis says, yes, that was so good. I was on core hover then. Moore says, I was also on core hover. Yeah, we saw a lot of people be on core hover at that point and get that one thruster. Rocket Launcher is asking if I can switch Valguris's stream to full screen now. I mean, I can try. The thing is, OBS is a little... I'd have to set up some new stuff in OBS to do that. So hang on and let me try. Hey, Pimsky. Yeah, you got so close to the exit that I'm pretty sure you had like the side approach. You just didn't know you were near the exit. Moore says the guarded entrance to the exit in this seed was facing to the north. Okay, so now we know the exit orientation. Malthusas says Val had an insane build in factory, but it got kind of wrecked. He's still on a roll go. So, ooh, he's chosen to go through armory though. We'll see how shredded he gets. Moore says he is going to get very shredded. This armory is nasty. Rocket launcher, how's this? That do for you? Alright. I've left like the little text overlay bits in because they are still useful info. Pimsy says, hey, it's better now. Yeah, I've tried out in OBS adding another source to go to full screen on one stream when we only have one streamer left. Seems to work. Cartesian says, then he goes to lab. If he goes to lab, I'm pausing the stream. I know how to get to lab. I've never been. Also, there's always, if I understand Army correctly, there's always an exit that you can go to just turn back before going to lab. So for speedrunning, and lab doesn't give you any kind of shortcut, unlike recycling, so there's no point really going there for a speedrun. Shimsy says, well, Mouth says, I could see a possible reason. Okay, you might go there for loot. Sure, but for time directly, not not really, and I don't want to show any redacted areas on here. Fimsy says, well, there's fun secrets there. Yeah, but the point is not to show fun secrets. Nora says you should be running the single improved diametric drive because it's the 30 speed. It is a prototype, so it should be faster. You are correct. That prototypes also tend to eat less energy, so yes, he should be running the prototype. Mel says, I'll just say there's a west out exit so you could get a time save / time neutral. I mean, possibly, but still, why not just go to the main armory exit? Mara says the exit in this armory is not that far. I think he's riding around it, though. He'd also be energy positive with improved diametric drive. Yeah, it probably would be. Fancy says, yeah, this is suboptimal. Yeah, it is. Cartesian his mouth, just different names for Twitch and for everywhere else, has the big robot faces with not optimal. Did everyone talk shit about my run too while I was playing it, I wonder? It's not really a talk shit so much as a comment on the strategies and what's being done well and what could be improved and such. But like that's the intent of it. It's not anything to like say bad things about a person. Yeah, we were being sad that you missed the exit, and we were lamenting the destruction of all your thrusters. Moore says, now I was just being very sad because you missed the exit by like 2-3 tiles. Yeah, that, or stuff where you reveal an exit and see that you just missed seeing it. Like, I did like your hacking setup and the fact that you picked up utility shielding specifically to protect it. Cartesian says, I would take off his improved diametric drive. I'm imagining that being to save it for later floors when not being tailed so much, and yeah. That's amazing. Because Melt was just saying, and then save the drive for a rebuild situation because it's probably going to get stripped right here. But no, now 8 perfectly functional experimental cesium ion thrusters. Experimental cesium ion is amazingly fast. But yes, Valth is correct that Valguris has no power. Moore says this is legit the tragedy of the seed. Yeah. I believe he can run one. Or maybe just run the impulse thruster. He's not taking all the thrusters, though. I mean, I imagine not so much now that he has enemies on him. Where it says, holy crap, 25 speed. Yeah, experimental cesium ion, very speedy. A lot of the experimental thrusters are. You should take them all. Yeah, I would say he should take them all, like drop the Q thruster and stuff. Like you might want to minimize how many of them he puts on since he has a big enemy tail. But take as many as he can. And now his energy mismanagement earlier with the impulse thruster is costing him because he's having to wait in front of his enemy tail. Yeah, Pimsky, I would absolutely have taken them all, just minimizing how many I actually exposed to damage because I couldn't, because I definitely couldn't run them all. They are very zippy. So their per move costs add up quite fast. Oh, there's power right there from the enemies that just got destroyed, but he'd have to go back into and backtrack a little and give them more shots on him for it. Pimsky says he could have gone for the bottom room, used the enhanced Nova Cannon to dig if it was a dead end. The exit. Moore says the exit right now is to his east, I think. To his east, really? Okay, so it's really, like, not super far. Aha, yeah, he knows where the exit is. Okay, so he's going for it. Okay. Yeah, you see he's down to one barely hanging on thruster. And now not even that. But he did find the exit, so he's out. He definitely does not have the power for the force field. Moore says he can rebuild, think there's very available power sources on this floor. Yeah, generally there's enough power scattered around in main complex floors that it's not too bad. Hinsky says, this is my favorite build, a single red medium battery. I mean, the medium battery did get completely refilled when he went to a different map. Your entire energy storage that's actually attached gets refilled when you do that. And we saw Vigorous pause debating whether to take that engine. Ah, she's luring the sentry. He is overweight. I think you didn't notice it's an improved ion engine. Ah, there we go. Now he's okay. And now he needs to turn one of those off. Why would he empty his inventory? I'm not completely sure. I mean, sure, he could dig with the enhanced Nova Cannon, but I see no reason to necessarily put it on now and expose that to damage when it might be more useful in access. Xylan says, wouldn't it be cool to have some experimental super thrusters that can reduce move count below 5 and stop time? Well, see, here's the thing. The limit for non-overloaded movement is already 10. If you want to go below 10 time units per move, you have to overload. So overloaded thrusters going up to 5 are kind of already serving that role. Also, the faster you are, the more powerful additional speed gets. So speed is already very powerful. That would be pretty ridiculously powerful. MC says, and then make time go backwards with tongue stuck out. Moore says, enhanced Nova Cannon for good armor, probably. They're not uncommon. It's a risky strategy, but could save the thrusters. I mean, that's true, but it's like, also, why not leave the cannon and one thruster in inventory where they can take no damage? And there we go. He is into access. Pinsky says, because this is faster, or wait, actually. In access, 803 turns. Nice. The Q thruster. Pinsky says the Q thruster is slowing him down. I think Moore's saying she agrees. Yeah, because the Q thruster has base speed 40, and the experimental cesium ion thrusters have base speed 25. So even with the -3 time to move from having an additional thruster, it's reducing his average thruster base speed by more than 3. Lucy says, yes, or a rare situation. It is a rare situation, but yeah, in this case, that's what's going on. Also, Valguris found an experimental Q thruster, which I believe is the only more zoomy thruster than experimental cesium ion with a base speed of 20. Moore says this could be sub 1K, and then holy crap to the experimental Q thruster. Xylan says, never mind, experimental Q, whoosh. Yeah, whoosh indeed. Experimental thrusters are very zippy. Moore says he is going the wrong way to the exit, though. Sad face. Yeah. Valguris has figured out to turn the Q thruster off because it's slowing him down. And is now at 17 time units per move. He's also losing over 2 energy per move because he only has the one engine powering 3 very, very zippy thrusters. And it's an improved ion engine too. And like, ion engines are not good in the late game. So he's actually having to spend time sat on the ground. And in general, the thing with this is that having turning a bunch of thrusters on to move for a while, and then and then having to sit on the ground and recharging for some turns takes longer than just running the smaller number of thrusters to be energy positive. So for speed without other considerations, it's generally better to just run, as many thrusters as you can while still being energy positive, but sometimes you want the bursts of higher speed to avoid enemies or take fewer shots from them to preserve the build. So it can be worth it to take those bursts of speed, even if you're going to have to sit on the ground and recharge later, if in doing so you're protecting the build enough to make up the time. Rocket Launcher says it's like hit and run, but run and sit. Yeah, kind of. Because you're not actually doing any hitting. So it's taken the branch access, so now he knows where command is, and its associated 3 terminals will be definitely nearby. They're also the only 3 guaranteed security level 1 terminals in access, so that is particularly useful. Note that the last week I didn't see exactly what he was hacking to comment on it, but he was using a trick of having investigations be called because he was locking out terminals generally anyway, and then using enumerate investigations to see where they were coming from. And since the investigations can only come from either exits to complex controlled locations or garrisons, there's it would give him a fairly small list of places to check for an exit. And if you saw it was a garrison, you could just pick it up, go somewhere else. But enumerate investigations, I believe, has much higher base chances than access main. So you use that, and it's also like a second hack name that you could get directly on a terminal. So to use that to help find exits. Pimsky says, I believe they're the only security level 1 terminals at all in access. Possibly. I do know they're the only guaranteed ones, and that by access, the RNG for terminal security level and machine security level in general skews very heavily to the higher security levels, like mostly security level 3 with some security level 2. I don't know if it actually makes security, it actually has like no chance of getting the security level 1 anywhere outside the command prefab though. Oh, and we see some variants of the quantum rifle here, the heavy quantum rifle and the enhanced quantum rifle. Is going for Assimilate, is he? No, appears not. Or maybe he is. Well, so much for that. But you see, it took that many moves for the operator to actually get a turn, and then the operator turned green because that was in fact his terminal. Ogres is considering the prototype reactors. Are those prototype impact weapons gravity flails? It would make sense because those should be available at access. Graviton reactor. 15 mass, 24 energy, 8 prototype. Definitely nicer and more mass efficient and slot efficient than the light quantum. And he says, why'd he do Trojan track if he was going to use it until trace anyway? Or says it stays on after lockout. Or also says graviton reactors are pretty rare. Yeah, they are. Very nice though. Like this, the same mass as the light quantum, but less heat, more energy. Yeah, I mentioned the gravity flails because they've been mentioned as having a very nice sound effect, but one that's very hard to ever get to hear because they're both so rare, and impact isn't being a high-level prototype, and impact not generally being a good damage type for the Cogmind to use. People rarely pick them up even when they see them. Pimsky says, I don't like his pathing here. I imagine you don't like the checking into a fairly small area because the surface exit prefab is always pretty large. Or was there something else? Nor says, yeah, there was little chance of exit there. Yeah, I agree. That area was pretty small to be containing an exit, and also, even if it did contain an exit, it would almost certainly have to be oriented north-south. And once you know the exit prefab, you know that there has to be corridors leading into it for that lead to both doors, the guarded front and the terminal locked back. And so if you're not seeing those corridors, there's very little chance that there's actually an exit there. Especially if you don't see the corridors on both sides, you pretty much know. Pimsky says, yeah, and he's cutting himself off, plus he's wasting some moves. Yeah, he was, because then he had to backtrack into enemies, right? Morris says, better to cover greater amount of ground than check all of it. Yeah, especially in Access, where the exit prefabs are both large and warp the map around them, and you can look for that warping really well. You want to see as much new area as you can. Pimsky says, not even just into enemies, he moved inside the circle he had made exploring the map. Yeah. Means he needs to double cover ground, Pimsky says. Yeah, that is true. Even without enemies, backtracking is a waste of time in speedruns because you're using moves and you're not exploring. Moore says, oh, that reminds me of something. We'll post a screenshot after Valguris is done. Okay. Yeah, so he knows where command is. He doesn't know where the surface is. We saw him look that up. Or try to on a terminal and get locked out 3 times. He did get a drone. One of them's already dead. Another one is now dead because it got shot at. He has plain Q thrusters on again. This is slowing him down, even though it means he gets to put a second graviton reactor on. He now has 3 power. Okay. And I believe he put on all the Q thrusters, yeah. But the thing is, with that, he's now back up to the 17 speed he was at before, and he's now substantially heat positive. Like 5.3 heat per move with all of them on. And I mean, he can turn a couple off. Pimsky says, nice to have some redundancy, though, more race viable. Yeah, some redundancy I agree with, especially if you can leave them inactive and turn them on only when something gets shut off, because activating and deactivating are free actions. But this is too much. He's at so little matter he can't put another part on. He's at +8 heat per turn, and he was energy negative too. As he says, oh yeah, that's too much. The prop armor was better. Yep. Moore says, absolute madman, filling all his prop slots with Q thrusters, 12 speed from Q thrusters. Yeah, this is all true. But notice he's going really hot again, which he did last week to great effect, but I think warning heat is a bit too much. Mouth says he's also spinning his wheels. He should save his speed for bursts to get away from enemies. Yeah, definitely agree. That is definitely another thing you can do by having lots of thrusters on. Save the additional thrusters to turn on in bursts, even just for the speed, even if you don't need them to support the rest of your build. If Moore says he's going to get rather melty soon, Pimsky says, oh god, what is he doing? 700 heat. It is 750 heat now. He's been at critical for a while. The madman indeed. He's already got 2 of his reactors disabled, which means they're not generating heat anymore, and his heat is still going up. Mouth said, I've had overheat damage, it can do 20% core. Yeah, critical, that's a serious risk. Roy says, yeah, he can alpha himself here with heat. I assume you mean Alpha Cannon Mark II. Even if he immediately strips. Xylan says, Alpha O. You'll see it someday. It's a very nice weapon that you can get by doing certain things. Oh, Moore says, I mean Alpha as in one-shot himself without being able to do anything about it. Sorry, you have it. Ah, I see. From like a single piece of core damage, or from repeated pieces of core damage before his heat goes down? I assume the latter, right? Because I don't think heat will do quite 1400 damage all at once. Repeated amounts, yeah, makes sense. Like, he's already gotten one of his Q thrusters permanently disabled, and his railgun's down. All of his power is down. He has no heat dissipation whatsoever, Moore says. Yeah, you are very correct. He's relying only on core heat dissipation, which is not enough to run this many thrusters. Pinsky says, I'd like to see how hot we can get, actually. Have fun with the max heat test runs. You're welcome to make that another stunt run stream. It says 3,000 heat seems doable. I assume you want cryofiber webs for that to protect you from overheat side effects? And then Mal chimes in, need cryofiber webs. Yep. Grimsky says no, tank it like a man. Xylan says if we would know the statistics on heat events, like how high is the chance for the core damage. I believe that we don't actually have like the full list with chances kind of thing, like with corruption, but also like with system corruption, the worse effects require higher minimum thresholds. Like with heat, if you're like just a bit over 200, like Valguris is now, like you might get one or two things temporarily disabled, but you won't see like permanent disables or large chunks of core damage or stuff. Kimsky says, would be fun if you could melt through walls and enemies at enough heat. That'd be a cool build. Morris says, oof, programmer call, yeah. No, in Access, because all the exits are enclosed by their prefabs, like they're guarded from all sides by doors and stuff, the enemies never come from them, and so you can't pinpoint them that way. The enemies will always come from garrisons. There we go. There's the exit. The doors open because he blew the coupler earlier. No, the cycler earlier. Couplers are coming in Beta 7. And C says, ooh, that's some great map sense. He indicated he knew it was there with his mouse before seeing it. Yeah, especially because you can see the too wide corridor. And like the corridor leading into the terminal side is always too wide like that. Zylan says, oh shit, no matter. Is the access shell not opening for him? I mean, he has matter now, because every time you get a part shot off you, you get 5 matter. Wait, Mo says, wait, what is he doing? No, the shell opens when you approach. Yeah, I thought it opened when you approached if you'd shot the coupler. Pimsky says, yeah, but there can be too wide corridors that don't lead there too, I think. Yeah, you're correct, but too wide corridors are definitely something to look for if you're searching for that particular approach. Likewise, I believe the one leading to the front is always 3 wide. So if you're looking for that approach or you're looking for the exit and you don't care about approach. Moore says 2 wide corridors also tend to network. This is true, yeah. Yeah, he definitely did waste a few turns there, not knowing that the shell would open for him. Moore says, so if you follow 2 wide corridors anyway, you have a good chance of finding the exit. So yeah, even with losing those turns, Valguris did win, total of 1,075 turns. So beat Mouth by 50 turns. But yeah, this is our race for this week. I believe we are not doing another one because we don't have a lot of people who are ready to go for another one or up for going. But this is still a good race to have. Thanks everyone who participated. Thanks everyone who stopped by in the chat. Worth saying, can't believe I went through Army 2 and missed those thrusters. Yes, thanks everyone for watching and participating. See you around.